Hey everyone, welcome back to High School English on YouTube. It is Freestyle Friday, and today's topic is one that I'm hoping will make you look like a polished superstar student the next time you turn in a formal paper, and that is proper MLA citation treatment and formal paper formatting for what you're going to give your professors or teachers. Now, this subject can be a little dry. I'm going to keep it real. It's not the most exciting thing ever, but I'm going to do my best to kind of keep it lively as we work through the nuts and bolts. Don't worry. Once you see what you need to do, it's going to be so easy and you're going to look so much better on the page. Let's go. All right, let's jump into this overview of the MLA. Everything I'm going to be talking about today is from the 8th edition of the Modern Language Association Handbook. Things change over time, but as of fall 2019, when I'm recording this, this is the most accurate information. So you're probably wondering, what even is MLA? Teachers mention it like, hey, we need your papers formatted and use the MLA style guide. Well, it's this thing, basically. A group of smarty pants academics got together, and every so often they update the guidelines that we as students should use when we are citing sources in our papers. You are not a genius yet, but you are building your academic body of work on the work of geniuses ahead of you, and there's a proper way to make a nod to where you've taken information from. So why do you even care about proper formatting? Well, aside from the grade, right, because a lot of teachers mark it, correct citations will actually help your reader be able to retrace your steps of your research. And so if a teacher's curious about something that you cited and they want to check the veracity of it, it's really helpful for us to have those clear step-by-step locations for us to find where you got your stuff. It helps build credibility with your audience, which will help you win your argument. So if I'm seeing that you are citing really noteworthy sources, and I check, your works cited to see where you got everything, I'm like, ooh, this person got it going on. And so it's going to help you build credibility and win me over as your reader. It's important to give credit where credit's due, right? Like the people who did the research or the reporting or the data that you are drawing from, they deserve credit. So it's just like a decent thing to do. And then also it's going to help you prevent charges of plagiarism. And I'm actually thinking I might do a whole separate Freestyle Friday video on plagiarism itself, because there's some stuff that I found my kids don't realize is plagiarism that they do pretty frequently. But that's a topic for another day. All right, but for today, we're just going to jump into understanding the academic circles that surround proper MLA citation. All right, there's two things that you need to keep track of when you're dealing with this. First are the in-text citations, which is what I'm going to deal with in this first video. And then the second big piece are the works cited page, which this is such a long presentation, I'm actually going to break this up into a second video, and I'll cover works cited next week. But for this week, I want to talk about in-text citations, which some teachers sometimes call parenthetical notations. So when they're saying that, just know they mean the little tags, the little wording dropped inside your paragraphs that show where you got the stuff from. Basically, I'm going to show you how to handle this within your essay. And if you're wondering, what do I need to cite? Well, pretty much anything that does not come from you. Any direct quotes, any paraphrasing of content, any kind of sourced material, facts, stats, quotes, anything that's not from you. General information, things like, Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. Well, we all know that. You don't have to cite that kind of obvious stuff. But if it's anything that anybody be like, really, where did you get that from? That needs to be cited. On the works cited page, we used to call this a bibliography because it was basically stuff that came from books, but because of electronic sources, we don't really call it a bibliography anymore, because you might use books, but chances are more and more of our papers are done with databases and fully online resources. But basically, it's a complete list of all the sources that you used in your paper. I'm going to show you the specific, easy to follow format of what goes where and how to build this thing. Don't worry, it is super easy. It's actually easier now in the 8th edition than it was in previous editions, because the MLA folks know they have to evolve with the changing of technology and with citation builders and copying and pasting website addresses. I'll show you how all that goes. It's really simple, you guys. Don't worry about it. Okay, but for today, I want to talk about those in-text citations, because there's a couple different successful ways that you can handle it. So let's suppose you are doing some research and you have a line from a book or a magazine article that you find online, and you want to use it as evidence in a body paragraph. Well, all you're going to do is you're going to include that information. You can either paraphrase it in your own words, or if you want to use a direct quote, you put quote marks around it, and then you use the author's last name and the page number where you found that material. And for example, I give you a quote from a book by famed author Justin Bieber. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's a quote from his book. Then all of a sudden, it was like I opened my eyes one day and I noticed that the world is full of beautiful girls, and I've had a hard time thinking about anything else ever since. Oh yes, the Biebs has written a book. It's true. Okay, so we've got our quote here, and of course my computer is sticking. There it goes. Okay, sorry, a little lag on that. Sorry, I hit forward too many times because my internet is a little slow. Sorry about that. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to put the direct quote with the quote marks, but then you're not going to put the period at the end of the sentence. Instead, that period goes at the end of the citation. So it goes end of the sentence, the quote mark showing it's a direct quote, a space, parentheses, his last name, space, the page number, parentheses, and then the period at the end. There's no comma between Bieber and 71, which a lot of kids want to put that in there, but the MLA doesn't require it. It's more economy of space and you don't need it. I know that it's a page number, so there we go. And yes, indeed, he did write a book. I actually checked this out from the library. Sorry, Bieber, I did not spend my own teacher cash on this, but it's more of like concert photos and quotes from Bieber. But it is in fact a book. So next step, there's another way to handle those in-text citations. You could do it just like that with the direct quote and then the citation at the end, but you also could use signal phrases instead. And this is a method that I use more often in my own writing and that I think is a little more polished and professional, and I'm a little more dazzled when, especially, gosh, my high school freshmen, I got some sharp freshmen. If they use this, I'm like, ooh, you kind of get it. So you're going to name drop basically, and you're going to use the author's name within the sentence. So then you only need the page number as the citation. So I went to another noted author. Yes, it's Kim Kardashian. In her autobiography, Kim Kardashian explains that my first white Range Rover was so special. It was the first car I got on my own. It had pink trim and was such a smooth ride, so comfortable to be in, and luxurious. All right, I'm gonna ignore that comma before the and because it doesn't need to be there. That's a whole nother grammar. That's a Mugshot Monday thing. That comma right there in your upper left-hand corner of your screen. That's a big nope for me because it's not joining two independent clauses. But okay, I'm gonna ignore it, and instead we're just gonna focus on the signal phrase. So, sorry, let me show you. It has Kim Kardashian right here. In the quoted material, so I don't need Kardashian down here in the citation, right? So instead, I can just have my luxurious, the quote mark, the space, the parenthesis, the page number, parenthesis, and then close the quote with the period. So easy, you guys, right? No big whoop. And yes, of course, I checked this one out from the library as well. Kardashian Confidential. Oh yeah, they wrote a book. How come I haven't written a book, right? The Kardashians can write a book, maybe Randazzo, maybe someday. All right, remember, any material, anything that comes from a source needs some sort of in-text citation and needs to be included on your works cited page. If you take something from like a New York Times article and you don't say it came from the New York Times, you just present it as common knowledge, as something you just knew, that, my friend, is plagiarism. And again, I'll talk about that another time, but you definitely want to make sure your citations are thorough. Don't overlook them. Sometimes it feels like you're oversighting. You're like, oh my gosh, almost every sentence in this body paragraph has an in-text citation or a signal phrase. You're like, yeah, it does, because it all came from other places. That probably means that you need to do more analysis and you need to do more actual thinking in your paragraph. Just keep that in mind. But everything that doesn't come from you needs to have a citation. All right, and I said, what if you're just summarizing someone else's idea? Yeah, you still need a citation. All right. For my next example, I want to use a more academically sound source. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Stephen King has a fantastic book. It's part memoir and it's part writing manual. It's called On Writing, and it's fantastic. Here, I'm using his name early in a signal phrase, and then I'm just dropping my page number citation. So you could write, if we were in a body paragraph talking about this awesome work, before finding success as a writer, Stephen King worked as a high school English teacher, a profession he admits zapped most of his creative energy. By the way, I love that he worked as a fellow English teacher. And actually, if you read this book, you'll find out he also, to make more money for his young family, taught English all day and then worked as the school assistant custodian at night. And it was because of that work that he got one of his main ideas, the opening for the book Carrie. I'll let you read how that came to be, but it's a cool story. Okay, but back to citations. So there we have signal phrase with page number, or another way to do it, you could direct quote. King said, quote, "I like my coworkers and I love the kids, but by most Friday afternoons, I felt as if I'd spent the week with jumper cables clamped to my brain." Notice, quote, space, parentheses, page number, parentheses, period. That's it. That King said is your signal phrase. So I don't need King 73 down there because I know that that's where it came from when I finally look at this, the Werq cited page. All right, I've given you guys quite a bit to chew on already, and I don't want this to run too long. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my MLA overview right here for this week. Next week, we're going to dig into the nuts and bolts of the Werq cited page. It looks like this, and I'm going to go over all the little step-by-steps that you need to follow in order to make one of these things that are perfectly formatted to please every English teacher in your life. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. I'll be back on Monday for Mugshot Monday, Mechanics, Usage, and Grammar. Always here on Wednesday for Words on Wednesday, high-level vocab words that we go deep on. And then again, next week, I'll be back on Friday for part 2 of MLA. So I'll see you then. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Be awesome, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.